Welcome to Rare Breed Brotherhood. Sigma males don't do normal. They don't follow the crowd, and they don't care if people find them a little strange. Their traits often make you stop and think, what the hell was that? But the truth is, those quirks are what make them who they are. Unique, independent, and powerful in ways others don't always understand. From their ability to detach emotionally in an instant to their knack for observing patterns others miss, Sigma males are wired differently, and that's exactly how they like it. If you've ever felt like you don't fit in or that people don't get you, you're not alone. Being a Sigma means thinking deeper, moving quieter, and taking a different route than most. It's about questioning the obvious and being comfortable with your own company. The traits that make Sigma males stand out are often misunderstood, but in reality, they're your strengths, the things that allow you to navigate life on your own terms. So if you've ever wondered why you don't quite fit the mold, or why people sometimes raise their eyebrows at your behavior, know this: you're not odd, you're a Sigma male. And that's something to be proud of. Let's get started, brothers. Number 1. They can mentally ghost you without physically leaving. Sigma males have an almost unsettling ability to vanish mentally while remaining physically present. And it's not something they do accidentally, it's intentional. When they're in situations they find trivial, their mind checks out faster than anyone realizes. They'll nod, maintain eye contact, and even respond with just enough effort to keep you thinking they're engaged. But in reality, they're miles away, lost in their own thoughts. To the untrained eye, they might seem rude or aloof, but for them, it's a survival tactic. Their brain simply refuses to waste energy on conversations or situations that don't add value or meaning to their life. What makes this trait so bizarre is how seamless it is. They don't storm off, they don't roll their eyes, and they don't openly shut you down. Instead, they create an invisible wall of indifference that's so subtle, you might not notice it right away. But the moment you catch on, that blank stare, that overly generic response, you realize you're no longer talking to them, you're talking at them. And it's not because they dislike you or think they're superior, it's because their inner world is more captivating than whatever is happening outside of it. This mental ghosting isn't about arrogance, it's about self-preservation. Sigma males thrive on depth and purpose, and anything that lacks either feels like quicksand to them. So, instead of sinking, they escape in the only way they know how, by retreating into their mind. It's confusing, sometimes infuriating, but undeniably fascinating. You can't help but wonder, what's going on in there that's so much more important than the world around them? Whatever it is, it's a place only they can access, leaving the rest of us guessing at the mystery. Number 2. They can sleep anywhere, but only when they want to. Sigma males have an inexplicable relationship with sleep that seems to defy logic. Put them in the middle of chaos, a loud party, a crowded airport, or even an uncomfortable car seat, and they can doze off like they're lying on a luxury mattress. Noise, light, and commotion don't faze them because their body takes its cues from their mind. If they decide it's time to rest, their brain tunes everything else out and powers down like flipping a switch. But here's where it gets strange. Place them in a perfectly quiet, comfortable bedroom with ideal conditions, and sleep might evade them entirely. It's not about insomnia in the traditional sense, it's about their mind refusing to comply if it doesn't feel like it. They could be exhausted, but if their thoughts are racing, analyzing, or just stuck in a loop of curiosity, sleep becomes secondary. For a Sigma, comfort is irrelevant if their mind isn't on board. This peculiar trait reflects the way Sigmas operate in general. Their inner world is in complete control. Their physical needs often take a back seat to whatever their mind deems a priority. It's why they can power through fatigue when they're focused on a goal, yet crash effortlessly in unlikely places when their brain decides to shut down. To outsiders, this sleep behavior is baffling, even frustrating. But for Sigmas, it's just another way their unconventional mindset governs their life. They don't follow the usual patterns because their mind runs on its own clock, dictating when it's time to engage, rest, or simply exist in their unique rhythm. Number 3. they're hyper-aware of being overstimulated. Sigmas exist in a world that constantly demands attention, but their minds are wired to take in everything at once. This hyper-awareness makes them exceptionally observant, but it also means they're prone to sensory overload. Bright lights, loud noises, chaotic environments. What might seem minor to others can feel like an assault to their system. It's not about being picky or dramatic. It's about protecting their mental bandwidth from being drained by unnecessary stimulation. Their methods for dealing with this might seem odd or even quirky. They'll avoid overly bright spaces or sit in dimly lit corners, not because they're brooding, but because it helps them think clearly. You'll often see them wearing headphones in places where music isn't needed, cafes, airports, even during walks. Those headphones aren't always playing anything. Sometimes they're just a shield to block out the sensory chaos around them. It's their way of creating a bubble of calm in a world that never stops buzzing. What's fascinating is how deliberate they are about managing their environment. They'll rearrange spaces to minimize distractions or choose paths that avoid crowded areas, all without making a fuss. Their overactive minds are constantly processing, analyzing people, situations, ideas, so cutting down on external noise is a necessity, not a luxury. This hypersensitivity isn't a weakness, it's part of their edge. It allows them to notice details others miss, but it also means they have to carefully guard their energy. By controlling their exposure to overstimulation, they keep their minds sharp and focused, ready to dive deep into whatever matters most to them. To the outside world, it might seem like an eccentricity, but for Sigmas, it's simply survival in a world that rarely slows down. Number 3. They love disappearing to solve problems alone. When chaos hits, Sigmas don't run to others for advice, comfort, or a helping hand. Instead, they retreat into their own world, almost like hitting an internal "do not disturb" button. To outsiders, this sudden disappearing act can seem baffling, even frustrating. But for a Sigma, it's the only way to deal with problems. They don't just want solitude, they need it. Their mind thrives in quiet, uninterrupted spaces where they can think clearly, untangle complexities, and methodically work their way to a solution. What's intriguing is how absolute this withdrawal is. They don't share half-baked thoughts or give updates on their progress. To everyone else, it might look like they're doing nothing or ignoring the issue altogether, but beneath the surface, their mental gears are turning at full speed. Sigmas trust their own instincts and intellect more than anyone else's input, so involving others in their process feels like an unnecessary complication. When they finally reappear, they often do so with a fully formed solution, ready to execute. They don't expect applause or gratitude. They're not doing this for recognition. For them, solving problems alone is about maintaining control over their life and protecting their independence. The idea of leaning on others feels like inviting chaos into their carefully constructed inner world, something they avoid at all costs. While this trait can make them seem distant or unapproachable, it's also what makes them incredibly dependable. When a Sigma disappears to solve a problem, you can be sure they'll return not just with an answer, but with the kind of clarity and decisiveness that only comes from deep, uninterrupted thought. It's not a cry for isolation. It's their way of mastering the storm. Number 4. They question compliments as if they're interrogating you. Complimenting a Sigma male is rarely a straightforward interaction. What seems like a kind, simple gesture on your part instantly becomes a puzzle in their mind. If you tell them, "You're really good at this," they won't just take it at face value. Instead, their internal interrogation begins. Why did they say that? Was it genuine, or was there an ulterior motive? What do they gain by complimenting me? They'll replay your tone, your timing, and even the context, analyzing every nuance to determine whether your words hold water or if there's a hidden agenda. This isn't about paranoia. It's about precision. Sigmas value authenticity above all else, and the idea of being flattered for the sake of manipulation is a mental red flag they can't ignore. Compliments can feel suspicious to them because they know how easily words can be used as tools of persuasion or control. Instead of basking in the praise, they'll dissect it like a detective searching for clues to its true meaning. To the person giving the compliment, This might come across as unnecessary or exhausting, but for Sigmas, it's second nature. They don't need external validation to feel secure, so every compliment is treated as a potential outlier that requires investigation. Even genuine praise gets put under the microscope, not because they don't trust you, but because they don't let emotions cloud their judgment. The result? Compliments rarely land the way you expect. They might respond with a polite thanks, but behind that, their mind is still unraveling the threads. It's not that they can't accept praise, they just need to know it's real. If you're being authentic, they'll eventually respect it. But don't expect them to take your words at face value without running them through their internal lie detector first. Number 5. They can be socially invisible on command. Sigma males possess a baffling ability to control their visibility in social settings, almost like they're toggling a switch. When they want to, they can effortlessly command attention, making their presence felt with sharp insights, intriguing comments, or a magnetic energy that draws people in. But just as easily, they can slip into the background, becoming so unnoticeable that it's as if they've vanished entirely, even when they're standing right there. This isn't some mystical skill, it's their uncanny control over energy and focus. When they decide to engage, they know exactly how to hit the right notes to captivate others. But engagement isn't their default setting. The moment they decide that a situation isn't worth their mental energy, whether it's because the conversation feels shallow or the environment doesn't resonate with them, they mentally step back. They stop inserting themselves, stop reacting, and almost seem to blend into the scenery. What's fascinating is how intentional this is. Their social invisibility isn't shyness or insecurity, it's strategy. They don't feel the need to be seen or heard at all times. Instead, they reserve their energy for moments that matter to them, opting out of superficial social dynamics without making a scene. For them, being invisible is less about avoiding people and more about reclaiming control of their environment. This trait can be disorienting for others. One minute you're drawn to their intriguing presence. The next, you might find yourself wondering where they've gone, even though they never left. It's a power move that keeps people intrigued, a way of saying, I'm here, but only on my terms. And for a Sigma, those terms are all that matter. Number 6. They have a love-hate relationship with rules. Sigma males have a unique relationship with rules that's neither outright rebellious nor blindly obedient. Instead, they approach rules like a puzzle to be solved, not an absolute to be followed. When presented with a rule, their first instinct isn't compliance, it's analysis. They'll mentally break it apart, examining its purpose, logic, and effectiveness. If it makes sense and aligns with their values, they'll follow it. If not, they'll find a way around it, often so discreetly that no one even notices. What sets them apart is their subtlety. They don't need to make a big show of defiance. Instead, they'll quietly bypass or bend a rule in ways that serve their needs without drawing unnecessary attention. It's not about being disrespectful, it's about efficiency and autonomy. They prioritize logic and practicality over blind adherence. So if a rule feels arbitrary or outdated, they won't waste time forcing themselves to comply. This calculated approach makes them seem unpredictable to others. They're not rule breakers in the traditional sense, yet they're not rule followers either. They exist in a gray area where their choices are dictated by reason rather than societal expectations. To a Sigma, rules are guidelines, not gospel, and they'll always weigh the cost of following versus deviating before making a decision. This love-hate relationship can frustrate those who expect unwavering compliance, but fascinates those who appreciate their ability to think critically. It's not about rebellion or conformity. It's about sovereignty over their actions. For Sigmas, the ultimate rule is their own judgment, and they'll navigate the world according to it, unapologetically, but always with precision. Number 7. They'll walk away from success if it feels hollow. For a Sigma male, success isn't defined by society's usual metrics of wealth, status, or applause. They're wired to seek meaning and fulfillment over external validation. If their success begins to feel hollow, if it no longer aligns with their values or fails to bring genuine satisfaction, they won't hesitate to walk away. To outsiders, this might look like madness. Who abandons the dream life everyone else is striving for? But to a Sigma, clinging to something that feels empty is what's truly insane. They're not driven by ego or the need to impress others. So the idea of quitting something prestigious doesn't faze them. In their minds, staying tethered to success that lacks depth is like living on autopilot, unbearably suffocating. Whether it's leaving a lucrative career, abandoning a high-status role, or stepping back from a project that no longer serves their purpose, they'll make the call without hesitation or regret. They'd rather start from scratch and build something meaningful than stay trapped in a life that doesn't resonate with them. This mindset baffles people who can't separate success from societal approval. Friends and colleagues might question their sanity, assuming they're throwing it all away. But Sigmas know that chasing an empty version of success is a slow erosion of the soul. For them, the only logical choice is to cut their losses and realign their life with what truly matters: passion, authenticity, and a sense of purpose. Their ability to prioritize meaning over material gain is what makes them both misunderstood and admirable. They don't chase success for the sake of it. They pursue it on their own terms, and if those terms aren't met, they'll walk away without looking back. Number 8, an almost creepy ability to predict. Sigma males have an uncanny ability to predict outcomes, and it's not just a lucky guess. They've trained themselves to read situations and people with chilling precision. It's like they have a radar that picks up on subtle cues others miss. Whether it's the vibe in a room, a person's body language, or even the energy behind words, they're constantly processing and analyzing everything around them. And from that, they can piece together what's about to happen next. This ability isn't some sort of magic trick or psychic gift. It's the result of years of honing their observation skills. They pick up on patterns in human behavior, understand what makes people tick, and can read between the lines in ways most can't. For them, it's more like solving a puzzle that everyone else is too distracted to notice. This can make them seem eerily ahead of the curve, like they already know what's coming. And it's not just about predicting events. It's about anticipating how people will react, how things will unfold, and how to position themselves accordingly. The thing is, they don't do it intentionally to freak anyone out. They just know. They've learned to trust their instincts so deeply that it becomes second nature, a mental filter they use to make decisions that others might miss. It's almost as if the chaos around them is an open book, and they've figured out how to read it with ease. It's unsettling at times, but it's also what gives them an edge in every situation. They don't guess, they know. Number 9. They think of worst-case scenarios as a hobby. For Sigma males, imagining worst-case scenarios isn't a sign of pessimism. It's a bizarre yet effective habit that borders on a mental pastime. They don't just acknowledge the possibility of things going wrong. They actively simulate it in vivid detail, almost as if they're running a mental rehearsal for chaos. To an outsider, this might seem excessive or even paranoid, but for Sigmas, it's simply how they ensure they're never caught off guard. What makes this trait unique is how seamlessly they blend this hobby into their lives. While most people shy away from uncomfortable what-ifs, Sigmas dive right in, breaking down every potential disaster with surgical precision. They'll picture the worst-case scenario, not just as a vague idea, but as a fully fleshed-out event, considering every angle, outcome, and ripple effect. Whether it's a financial setback, a personal betrayal, or even something as trivial as a logistical hiccup, they've already thought about it and quietly prepared for it. The result is a life that appears unnaturally smooth from the outside. Others might chalk it up to luck or natural competence. But the truth is that Sigmas have already solved the problems most people never see coming. They don't brag about their preparedness or draw attention to it. Instead, they move through life with a quiet confidence, knowing they've accounted for almost every variable. For them, this mental exercise is as much about control as it is about entertainment. It's not that they're hoping for disasters, they just enjoy being 3 steps ahead. And when life throws them a curveball, they rarely flinch because chances are they've already played that scenario out in their minds and know exactly what to do. Number 10. They have a gift for making people feel exposed. Sigma. Males have an uncanny ability to make people feel seen in ways that are both liberating and unsettling. They're not probing out of curiosity or malice. It's their natural way of observing and understanding others. Their calm, composed demeanor disarms even the most guarded individuals. Conversations with them don't feel rushed or superficial. Instead, they create a space where people feel comfortable enough to open up. But here's the catch. They don't ask obvious questions. Sigmas have a talent for asking the kind of questions that bypass your surface-level defenses and go straight to the heart of who you are. It's not that they're trying to pry, it's that their observations are so sharp and their questions so precise that you end up revealing more than you intended. They don't fill silences with small talk, which leaves you with time to reflect, and sometimes spill truths you didn't even realize you were holding back. What makes this even more intriguing is how effortlessly it happens. They're not pushy or aggressive, and they're definitely not looking to manipulate anyone. Yet their presence and ability to listen deeply make you feel safe enough to overshare. At the same time, their penetrating gaze and unspoken understanding can feel like a mirror reflecting back parts of yourself you'd rather keep hidden. This gift can leave people feeling vulnerable, sometimes even exposed after the conversation is over. Sigmas don't judge or exploit this. In fact, they rarely even comment on what you've shared. They just store the information quietly, using it to better understand you, or deciding how much of their own trust you've earned. It's not intentional or malicious, it's simply who they are, and it's why people often feel both drawn to and unsettled by their presence. As I wrap up, being a Sigma male isn't about fitting into anyone's expectations. It's about owning the unique way your mind works, even if the world doesn't always get it. Those traits people might call weird. They're not quirks to hide, they're tools that set you apart. Your ability to think 10 steps ahead, quietly navigate chaos, or walk away from what doesn't serve you isn't random. It's a reflection of your depth and independence. Yes, some of your habits might make people scratch their heads or even doubt you. But here's the truth. The world needs people like you. Sigmas bring clarity and confusion, self-reliance in a world that craves validation, and strength that doesn't need to shout to be felt. It's not always an easy path, but it's an honest one, and that's rare. If you've ever felt misunderstood or out of place, let this be your reminder. You're not alone, and there's nothing wrong with the way you are. The traits that make you different are the very things that make you powerful. Lean into them. Embrace your curiosity, your independence, and your ability to think differently. The world might not always recognize it, but that's not the point. You know your value, and that's enough. So keep going. Keep questioning, observing, and living on your own terms. And if anyone calls you weird, take it as a compliment. It just means you're doing something right. Thank you for watching. See you in our next video. God bless you.